Let's talk about the upcoming schedule.
Sure.
And this is one of the first weeks we've really had a chance just to do that and enjoy it. In the Nick 10 next week, I've kind of highlighted two games that people will probably keep an eye on. It'll be Harlem and Belvedere North. If Belvedere North beats Harlem, then we got something.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they could.
They very well could.
Because, Harlem could celebrate that all week. They could be having a high on that. And the other game is at Boylan and Guilford. If Guilford beats Boylan, then Guilford's going to be 4-0. And Boylan would lose 3 in a row for the first time since, 2005 we just mentioned.
Exactly.
But if they win, then we know that everybody better shape up a little bit because they're back on their trail. So those will be two games we've got to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I do think Belvedere North absolutely has a shot against Harlem there. We had kind of talked about earlier in the show about Hananiga, could have let that win linger all week, and not be fully prepared against Belvedere North. They were able to avoid that. Harlem's got to avoid that same thing now because that's a good football team, and this one's going to be on the road. You look at that too. Hananiga probably had the benefit coming off of that win at being at home against a tough team. Harlem's going to have to travel to Belvedere North. They're going to be on the road in a
on grass again,
in a raucous environment there. That's going to be a great game. I think that one's going to be a shootout. Both teams like to throw the ball. I know the weather kind of affected that some for Belvedere North.
The Willie kid can throw too, buddy.
Yeah.
You watch him. He's a good one.
He likes to throw, and he's got a great receiver there in Malik Lightfoot. He had another big game last night. A couple touchdowns. I think he returned an interception for a touchdown too. I think that's going to be a great game, and that one, just as much as last night's game did, I think that one's going to go a long way in how this conference might shake out. If Harlem wins, that puts Belvedere North down to 2 losses.
It's tough.
And both them
tough.
and Hananiga will still have Guilford left to play, but boy, you really start kind of honing in on those 3 teams then at that point.
This is nice. We never had it where we went right down to the nitty-gritty, have we?
No. But yeah, so if Harlem wins, I think you really narrow in on those 3 teams, and that's what you're looking at the rest of the year. But boy, if Belvedere North wins, I think this thing is wide open again, because Hananiga would still have tough games left. Hananiga still has Auburn. They still have to play Guilford. They still have Harlem in Week 7.
Yeah, and that's always an interesting game between those two.
Exactly. So, if Belvedere North were to win, that knocks Harlem down a peg, and then you got Hananiga and potentially Guilford, maybe staying undefeated, and that's who you're kind of looking at. But I think that opens things up wide open where I think you do got a good chance to have a conference champion with at least 1 loss, if not maybe, some kind of a tie at 2 losses.
And I got to apologize to Coach Gil Fillon again. I kept thinking they were playing at Freeport. They already played Freeport. It's because I had a senior moment there. So, but that'll be a good game. Other games in the Nick 10, East is at Freeport. That'll be a big game because Freeport could win 2 in a row, and you never know what that gets going for you.
You never know. And we kind of talked about Steve McShane earlier. It's a great player. If they pick up another win, all of a sudden you're 2-0. And you look at their losses. They're Guilford and Harlem is who they've lost to.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
Not at all. And then you start looking around and say, okay, they could knock off Belvedere, they could knock off Jefferson. Now all of a sudden they just got to find one against either Auburn, Hananiga, or Boylan there. If they can knock off one of those 3, all of a sudden you could be looking at a playoff team.
Now, Rockford City Challenge game next week is Jefferson. They will take on Auburn. That's at Auburn. Yep. That's both their home field, so that's,
right.
They play that no matter what at Wyeth Stadium, right? It's Wyeth. Mm-hmm. And then it'll be Belvedere and Hananiga. Belvedere, if they could upset Hananiga, that would be big. But, boy, I'll tell you what, they're just kind of struggling a little bit right now.
Yeah, they're a little down, but I wouldn't take that game lightly if I were Hananiga, and I don't think that they will. Belvedere's got some athletes out there. I think they're going to come out fired up. They want to make a statement and pull an upset. So, I think that'll be a tough game for Hananiga, one that I think they'll win. But, that'll be a very, very tough game. And you go back to that Guilford-Boylan game. I am so intrigued by that game. How does Boylan respond after 2 straight losses? We talked last week with Coach Cacciatore and said, his statement was saying, how do we respond from a loss? Now, how do they respond from 2?
And you said something about starting a new streak. And
yeah.
He said, what did he say?
He said, hopefully it's a winning streak.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately for them, it was not. And Guilford's going to be licking their chops. They've more than anybody, over the course of the streak, they probably took it the toughest. Not that obviously everybody was losing to them, but boy, how many times did we see Guilford come in, with a 2-0 team, 1-0, 3-0, something like that, feeling kind of good about themselves. And then they would just play Boylan, and Boylan would just beat them mercilessly, and then the season would kind of spiral from there. They might finish 5-4, 6-3, still make the playoffs. But we saw many good Guilford teams that we thought maybe had a chance to fight for that conference just get destroyed by Boylan in the past. So, they're going to be licking their chops. Nino Musso at quarterback there, it kind of started at Boylan. So, he's going to be excited, fired up about
I think it's
his
little brother is the sophomore quarterback.
Yeah,
There's a Musso playing quarterback. I took that for granted.
Yeah,
so.
And he's a good player, too. I've seen him some there.
Big Northern West next week, Matt. Winnebago's at Lutheran. Winnebago didn't score any points against Stillman Valley, and Mr. Robinson had a great week for Rockford Lutheran. Tom said he heard like 300-some yards rushing, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Normal night for him.
Yeah, just your normal 300 and some odd yard night with 4 touchdowns. That's one of those games that on paper you look at and say, oh, wow, Winnebago Lutheran, that should be a great one. I don't think so.
Time to put your big boy pants on now,
Winnebago's been struggling this year. Them and Stillman Valley both. I think that Big Northern West race is over. I think Lutheran is just the class of that league this year with James Robinson there. And, I think what they did, look what they did to a 2-0 Dixon team last night, 47-0.
35-0, I think, at halftime is what I saw. So
I mean, it's just unbelievable. They could do the same thing to Winnebago next week, especially at home. And, yeah, boy, you look around that schedule, I know Oregon's played them a little tough in the past, but, boy, I don't know if I see anything there that makes you think, well, that maybe that one could be it or something like that. I think, and really, I think, you got to see what class they end up in when it gets to playoff times. But I think they've got a chance, whether it's 3A, 4A, to be one of the top teams in the state. I think they're a very, very good football team.
They're going to have to lose a game. They're not going to have somebody beat them. They're going to have to lose it. I think.
That's probably and it's really going to have to take a combination. I think somebody's going to have to show up, probably play their best football of the year, and on top of that, Lutheran's going to have to make some mistakes and kind of stumble upon themselves and kind of cost themselves a game there too.
Other games in the Big Northern West: Byron's at Rock Falls, Oregon's at Dixon, Stillman Valley's at Mendota. Stillman Valley they're struggling too, and Mendota's playing pretty well. Real quick in the Big Northern East, Johnsburg will take on North Boone. North Boone suffered their first loss of the year,
and that was surprising.
And a shutout. And Rockford Christians at Genoa Kingston. I got some information on Rockford Christian. I'm going to hold on to it till I can really verify it. But there's some big news there. Okay. And also in the Northeastern Athletic Conference next week, Christian Life will be at Alden Hebron. That game is also on Saturday, September 20th. And in Wisconsin, Clinton's at Beloit Turner. Verona is at Beloit Memorial. Those two are both struggling.
Yeah, yep. So get out next Friday, though.
Yeah.
Get somewhere, everybody.
Yeah. If you get a chance, 6 o'clock tonight.
Get out to Christian Life. Get there.
That'll be a good game. We're going to see you next week here. Same time, same station. This is the Stateline Sports Hour. See you next week on News Talk 1440 WROK.